What happens when the person who makes you feel completely alive is standing on the other side of a ticking clock, and every second brings the final goodbye closer? Life often has a funny way of interrupting our carefully laid plans when we least expect them to change. For Emma, the world was a predictable, quiet place until a chance encounter turned everything completely upside down. Walking through the bustling streets, surrounded by the ordinary rhythm of daily life, she never expected to cross paths with someone who would fundamentally alter the entire trajectory of her existence. It started with a simple, unexpected exchange, a moment of humor that instantly broke down invisible walls. "Well, that's one way to introduce yourself," Emma laughed, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "I was hoping for something a little smoother." That initial conversation sparked a torrent of shared memories, even though they had only just met minutes before. They reminisced about childhood fantasies, foolish lemonade stands where they genuinely believed they were millionaires, their mutual affection for classic cinema, like The Princess Bride, and awkward teenage moments, like tripping clumsily in public. Every terrible joke and lighthearted tease only brought them closer together, laying the profound foundation for a connection that felt older than time itself. As the hours melted away into the evening, the sprawling, overwhelming city suddenly felt remarkably small and intimate. Every glance they shared carried a hidden electric weight, and every accidental brush of their hands felt charged with possibility. When Emma finally opened up and shared her deepest, most vulnerable aspiration, a quiet, long-held dream of becoming a writer, her companion didn't brush it aside or offer a polite nod. Instead, they validated it with a fierce, unwavering trust that made Emma's heart soar. "This night is magical with you," Emma whispered softly, the warm glow of the city lights reflecting brightly in her eyes. "It's perfectly wonderful." Moving away from the ambient, rushing noise of the city streets and into the quiet sanctuary of an apartment, the intimacy between them deepened even further. Sharing a simple, steaming cup of tea turned into hours of uninterrupted dialogue where the rest of the world seemed to completely fade away. Surrounded by family photographs and soft shadows, the unspoken tension finally dissolved into a tender, breathtaking realization of romance. They were no longer just two strangers sharing a coincidental evening. They were two separate souls recognizing a home they never knew they were desperately looking for. The morning sun eventually brought a gentle, peaceful awakening, casting a warm golden hue over the entire room. But beneath the profound sweetness of shared morning coffee and casual lazy strolls through the neighborhood lay the heavy shadow of reality. Life was entirely unpredictable, and both women could feel themselves standing at a critical, daunting crossroad. Change was looming on the horizon, heavy and unavoidable. Whether they were running through a sudden, unexpected downpour and laughing while sheltering from the rain, or sharing a messy, imperfect dinner in a cozy kitchen, every shared experience carried a bittersweet undertone. They knew instinctively that moments this pure and fleeting are rare, which only made them cherish every single passing second all the more deeply. They tried to hold on to the illusion of endless time, pretending the clock was not ticking down against them. However, reality, cruel, relentless, and unyielding, eventually caught up with them. The cozy domestic atmosphere shifted instantly into a heart-wrenching sense of urgency as final boarding calls and station announcements echoed loudly through the terminal. Final boarding call for flight to London Heathrow. Final boarding call for the express train to Chicago. Distance cold, vast and unforgiving, threatened to violently tear apart what they had so carefully and tenderly built over the past few days. Holding on to each other tightly in the crowded terminal, desperately fighting back hot tears, neither of them wanted to be the first to let go. "I love you," a voice trembled. "I love you, too. Please don't go. Yet the demands of life required painful departures. The train doors slid shut, the planes took off into the gray clouds, and the silence left behind in the wake of their parting was deafening. They had met as absolute strangers, but they were now parting ways with hearts inextricably bound, bruised by the distance yet burning with devotion. Distance could certainly test them, but true, fierce love refuses to accept a tragic ending. As the narrative shifts and loops back into a breathtaking, vibrant sunset, warm, glowing, and full of boundless promise, the realization sets in that this separation was never the conclusion of their story, merely the end of a difficult chapter. I figured our story deserved another chapter. A familiar, beloved voice murmurs. Standing side by side under a majestic golden sky, looking forward to a future filled with countless adventures yet to come, they realize that no amount of physical distance can ever extinguish a spark that was meant to burn forever. The journey of love is rarely straightforward or easy, but for Emma and her love, every single hurdle was simply proof that their story was worth fighting for until the very end. As they stood beneath that glowing twilight, hand in hand, the lingering echoes of the train station and the lonely airport terminal faded into a distant memory. The uncertainty that had once hung over them like a heavy fog was replaced by a quiet, unshakable certainty. They had survived the hardest part, the agonizing realization that their worlds were oceans apart. Now, armed with the promise of tomorrow, they were ready to write all the pages that remained. Distance is a strange architect. It can make a heart grow desperate, but it also strips away all the trivial noise, leaving only what is essential. In the weeks that followed their reunion, every phone call, every late-night video chat, and every stolen weekend felt like a brick laid in the foundation of a house they were building together. They learned to share the mundane parts of their day's morning coffee across a digital screen. Grocery lists whispered through static, and the quiet comfort of simply leaving the line open while they worked. Emma finally found the courage to sit at her desk, pen in hand, letting the stories she had, kept bottled up for years, pour onto the paper. Her writing changed, taking on a deeper, more resonant voice, one born of profound love and the bittersweet ache of longing. Whenever doubt crept in, she would look at a small photograph tucked beside her keyboard, capturing that first magical night under the city lights, and her resolve would instantly renew. Her partner, too, was fighting her own battles miles away, clearing the path toward a future where hello and goodbye wouldn't be dictated by train schedules and flight numbers. They were building a bridge across the miles, one conversation, one compromise, and one shared dream at a time. Seasons shifted, painting the world in different shades of amber, white, and green, but the rhythm of their connection remained constant. They discovered that love isn't just about being in the same room. It is about choosing each other, over and over again, despite every obstacle the map throws in your way. One crisp evening, months later, Emma walked down the familiar platform of the train station. The air was sharp, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and possibility. This time, there was no ticking clock of departure hanging over her head, no final boarding call rushing her away. As the train hissed to a halt and the doors slid open, a familiar figure stepped down onto the platform, luggage in hand, wearing that same unforgettable smile. There were no grand speeches needed, just the breathless collision of two people who had refused to let go when the world told them they must. They embraced tightly, the cold air disappearing entirely against the warmth of their reunion. As they walked out of the station together into the evening glow, they knew the hard miles were behind them. The chapter of separation was closed forever, and the rest of their story was finally beginning. Thank you so much for watching today's story. If this video touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Solo Dad Stories for more touching tales about family, dignity, and second chances. Let us know in the comments below which moment stayed with you the most. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.